In last week's episode, we measured, marked, chopped, and then welded our Horsebox's roof back into the correct position. I then cut off the old plastic wheel arches, and while I was away, Rich began mocking up some bespoke fenders out of cardboard to make the Horsebox look like it had been lowered. And once I'd returned from covering my retail store for nearly a week, we then decided to reinstall some brand new floorboards supplied by Scottwood Timber onto the frame of our Horsebox. This then gave us a base to work from, ready for today's video. Welcome back to episode 4 of refurbishing our rundown Horsebox. And in the last episode, we promised you guys that we were going to reveal what we'd be doing with this project. And you're probably wondering the reason why we've taken so many weeks to reveal what we're doing with it. And the honest answer is we haven't known ourselves. The reason why I brought this Horsebox is actually quite funny. As you probably know, if you've watched from the start, we did a series refurbishing our unit, and the unit is sort of 85-90% complete, and we got to the point where we were like, right, we're going to need a new project soon. Everybody, I think, thought that we were going to go into automotive car repairs, a bit like Matt Armstrong, a bit like Chris Slicks. I love their content, I watch it religiously, but I wanted to be different at the same time. I didn't want to do what everyone was expecting us to do. So I was at home one evening and I was browsing Facebook Marketplace at just general stuff, all listings that come up recommended for you. And I actually got recommended to this Horsebox. I contacted the woman and I thought, do you know what? This actually seems like a really good deal and it's going to be great content for the channel. However, when we finally managed to get it back in the unit after chopping the roof off, Rich was like to me, what are we going to do with this Horsebox? And I said, mate, honestly, I haven't got a clue, but we'll come up with something. Our initial ideas when we sat down and thought, what should we do with the Horsebox, was to turn it into a camper van. So this unit can only hold 2 cars, and while this camper van's in here and having work done to it, a lot of grinding, a lot of dust, we can't actually have customers' cars in here, and that's what I brought the unit for in the first place. My saving grace is these Horseboxes sell for a lot of money once they've been converted, but they've got to be converted into the right thing to get top dollar for them. And we still don't know at the minute whether, when it's completed, to sell it on to free up space in here, and the money that we make from it will pay for the next project on the channel, or whether to keep it at a separate location and actually use it in the summer to try and start our own business from it. And that's going to be down to you guys. I'm happy to do either. Sell it on, make a profit hopefully, and use that money to pay for another project, or do we keep it and actually try and start the business? Is that something you guys are going to watch? I need you to let us know in the comments below, which avenue should we go with this Horsebox. But before we get carried away with that, we've actually got to get the Horsebox finished, and I need to tell you guys what we've decided to do with it. And the easiest way for me to do it, other than this hatch being cut out, which has given away a clue, is for me to actually go and get a little sign I've made. Give me 2 minutes. So this sign is going to give everything away, but we are going to call it the Gallop and Guzzle Cocktail Bar. That's right, we're going to be making a cocktail bar, but it's going to have some twists and quirky features. And the reason why we've gone with a high-end cocktail bar is because ourselves, or whoever buys the Horsebox, can take it to high-end events and actually charge a lot of money for it to be there as a business. And as you can appreciate, a cocktail bar is going to sell a lot easier than a camper van. I think if somebody wanted a camper van, they wouldn't buy this. They'd go and buy a VW camper van for the same sort of money, or they'd just buy a caravan for a lot less than one of these converted and actually tow that around. And that is the reason why we decided on a cocktail bar. So now the cat's out the bag and you know what this Horsebox is going to be turned into, we actually need to crack on further with getting it complete. You probably sat there wondering, well, I haven't seen you cut the hatch out. We're actually going to cut back in time now to a couple of days ago when I still had Rich with me, and we're going to see exactly what we got up to up until this point in time. So now that you guys know that this is going to be a cocktail bar, we actually are missing one major thing, as you can probably tell. If we're going to be serving cocktails and beers from this Horsebox, we're going to need a serving hatch, and that is what we don't have at the moment. So we are currently in discussions as to how big of a hatch we want, how high we want it, And one of the things we've noticed is we're currently about 1.5 feet off the floor. The customers are going to be on the floor on the outside, so it's really important at this point that we get the hatch cut at the right height so it works for us serving and also the customers receiving the drinks. So after a lot of precise measuring and going on for the last half an hour, we've actually decided now that we are happy with what we measured initially. So we're going to go 60 centimetres deep, 150 centimetres wide, and that is 28 centimetres in off each end of the horse box. We think this will give a nice opening and let a lot of natural light into obviously when we're serving in here. So I'm going to put Rich in charge of the grinder as usual, and he's going to try and grind this out somewhat square. So while Rich starts cutting the aluminium away from the horse box, I'm actually going to use the wood from Scottwood Timber to start building some framework for the inside of the horse box. Let's get cracking.
Got my safety glasses on. Yeah. I'm learning.
Slow down, mama, why you talk so mean? Good Lord, Nashville, it ain't what it seems. Got nice clothes, late night shows, boogie down at the bar, fiddle tunes and homemade booze, but it always goes too far. Shooting pool, crack a jack, take off now and don't look back, but hey, don't you wanna play? Hold on, sugar, why you look
And what
so
cocktail
sad?
would you like?
Oh.
Thanks for telling me. And just like that, we have got our serving hatch cut for the horse box. The next thing we want to do is actually get the rivets back in place. So at the moment, this aluminium is still all flappy from where we cut the roof down. We're going to use rivets in every single hole that, luckily for us, is already cut to get it nice and firm again. Let's get these rivets into those holes. Nice and tight. Unluckily, we've got about 50 to do around the horse box, so this might take a while. Let's get the tripod set up and get a time lapse going.
But baby, I don't work down there anymore.
Take.
No, I don't.
That's the back side of the horse box complete. As you'll see, all the new rivets are in place all the way along. And now we've got to do a few here and a few here and downwards, just where we removed them from before. But I can't believe how good the hatch looks. Like, this is probably your first time seeing how it looks from inside out. It's big and it's looking really good. Let's get these rivets put into place.
Knock it back, get on track.
Boom, the front face is now complete. That front face is now complete. This whole back edge is complete, and that only leaves the very front of the horse box. We've got holes in the aluminium here. This was existing, we haven't cut this down at all. And obviously we chopped the roof down, so the holes in the steel are still existing. However, this aluminium is somewhat new at a lowered height, so we need to cut the holes in here through the steel and then clamp it all together with the riv nuts. Let's get on that. Okay, so that's those two riv nuts put in. I can't actually put one in here because the existing hole is that big, it's just going to pull the riv nuts straight through. So I'm going to get a tube of silicone and fill all these bigger holes. So you'll see there's some more here where bolts used to be, and we're just going to seal those just to make it nice and watertight. I'm also going to run a bead along here where the two parts of the aluminium meet. Now it's sealed, just to try and give it that extra bit of protection. I don't think water can ever come back up through here, but just to be safe, let's get a bead along there and all the way around.
To the mountain.
A whole tube of silicone later, I'm pretty confident in saying now that this horse box is watertight from the ground up. If any moisture does get in here, it's going to be very minimal. And before we move away from the subject of rivets, people are probably wondering what rivet gun we use. That is the bog standard rivet gun from Screwfix or Toolstation. They both sell the same one. It's only about £16, and if you want a quicker review on it, it's good, but I can see why people use electric ones. If you need to do 40 or 50 rivets like I've just done, an electric one would save you a hell of a lot of time. However, we don't have an unlimited budget yet, unfortunately, so we've got to do everything within reason. This is the frame that I constructed earlier, and this frame is actually going to be really important to our build. We need this same frame along this wall, along here, and the front, as well as where the hatch is going, and this is going to give us something to actually be able to screw to. At the moment we have nothing to screw to because this is just aluminium, and the other side of that is fresh air. If we send any screws through here now, it's going to break the seal, making it not watertight, and we're going to have loads of screws sat on the outer side. So this frame is actually going to give us almost a skeleton to build from. And the next thing I need to do is actually frame out the rest of this horse box, which is going to be far from an easy task, and it is going to take a while. So rather than talking loads, I'm actually going to time lapse it and see how we get on. Let's get to it. I've got to say, Rich, that is looking pretty spectacular.
Thank you. Once a year, I like to try and do, a little bit of good work.
That is one of your finer bits of work. So what's the plan?
Just got to trim off a little bit here, just so it's nice and flush. Once it's welded, you won't tell that it's square. I don't want to do 45-degree angles. Cut these off, so it's nice and flush. Weld it to there, same at the top, that side. We'll do the same on the bottom as well.
Big question.
Yeah.
You took the mick out of me for making the markings up on the inside, doubting that it wasn't going to be square. I have doubted you for making the actual steel rectangular square. Is it square?
Let's find out. 149.1.
149.1
is 149.1.
Pretty damn good.
Looking good, mate.
It is, it's taking shape. It is. I can see the vision. And do you want to know what the worst thing is? Me and Rich have had a crazy day on the Horsebox. We've made so much progress. And guess what Richard's got to do for the rest of the week now?
Get to work.
Go to work for the whole week. That's not good news for you or for the Horsebox. So I think the next step in explaining to you what this Horsebox is going to actually be is to actually show you my thought path. Now, when I've seen these Horseboxes at events before, they're all branded very nicely and they're always really busy. The queue that's coming from the hatch is normally like 20, 30 people deep, and that actually puts me off wanting to buy from there because I hate waiting in a long queue. So one of the ideas I've had is to actually have the capability of having two queues. So most people will pull this door up, weld it up, weld the top on, and actually have a second hatch here. And this second hatch is normally used more for visuals and letting light in rather than actually purpose. So what we want to do is have one queue here from the serving hatch, and we want to make this part of the Horsebox interactive with the customer to draw more people in. So the customer will actually be able to walk up this into the Horsebox. This door will be welded and we'll have a big sign here with the cocktail menu on. And this part of the Horsebox here will have a countertop bar across, so the customer can actually be stood inside the Horsebox having an interaction with a staff member or myself or Rich or whoever's serving. And then once they are here, we'll have a big long bar along here with a lot of spirits and alcohol, and across the back. One thing I want to include across the back is a slush puppy machine. I'd love to do alcoholic slushies. I think that'd be a great selling point on the menu. And if you're wondering about this door, we're actually going to weld it closed, frame across it, and then have plywood here and here, all painted up nicely so it looks finished. What have we got to crack on with today? We've got to get this framing finished across the Horsebox. I still don't know exactly what we're going to do with the hatch because I'm waiting on Rich to decide what he wants to do fabrication wise. But this side of the Horsebox we can crack on with, and we can actually crack on with the roof. So at the moment it's very peely and flaky. I don't know if you can see on the camera here. We actually need to sand back the whole inside of this roof, which is going to be quite messy, and get it prepped ready for painting. But before we do any of that with the roof, I actually want to get the framework finished, and there's a good hour or so's work on that. So I'm going to set you guys up on the tripod and set a time lapse going of me finishing this framework. I'm actually just going to get the camera off the tripod, but I think we are running out of square ever so slightly. So can you see how this frame's sitting just slightly higher than that frame? And I actually think it could be this frame that's running out of square, so I'm going to get the spirit level out now and have a look at what is not quite plumb. Okay, so after an endless amount of measuring and adjusting, we are now nice and square. So if you look on the cutout, it's all nice and parallel. We've got a nice gap along the top, and I've just got to finish this side bit basically, and then that area is complete. Let's get that finished. So although I can't get the plywood attached permanently, what I might do now while I've got the saws and everything set up is actually start cutting this plywood to shape and just putting it in maybe with 1 or 2 screws just to hold it in place. And then once Rich is back tomorrow, we can actually have a look at the wiring process and what we're going to need to order for this Horsebox. We're now at a point where this lower section of the inner skin is complete all the way around. We've just got to repeat the same process again now for this top section, which is going to be a little bit more cutting, but now we know that everything's pretty square, this should be a breeze. Let's get this quickly whipped into place. So for this project we're actually using a 9mm ply along with plasterboard screws. Now I've gone for plasterboard screws because they do a lot of different lengths, and obviously we've got to be quite specific with the length we're going with, otherwise it will shoot straight through the wood into the aluminium, therefore breaking the seal on the Horsebox. Well, I can't believe how much of a difference just putting that skin on the inside makes. Now there's lots of little bits that I haven't actually included in the voicing of the video, which is I've actually cut the plywood longer than the frame sat on the top, and that is because we want to run LEDs behind the back of here. I think with the curve of the roof, when they shoot up, they'll look really nice. We've got a lot of prep to now do on this roof, and it's one of the last things I want to get done today. So if you look closely, the roof is super flaky and we will not be able to paint that properly so it looks nice. So I actually need to go around now with my DeWalt sander, and I'm going to prep all the roof ready for when we want to paint it. So I'm actually going to start with a really rough grit. I think this is 60. This is going to get off most of the flakiness, and then we're going to fine the grit down back to about 200 to really try and give it some smoothness. This is not going to be fun. It's going to go absolutely everywhere. You know what? I actually might get the glasses out. The Men in Black glasses are on. Let's get to sanding. So the problem I'm finding is the head I've got for the multi-tool, the Velcro's fairly battered on it. Like I've had this head for 3 or 4 years now. And these strips are just disintegrating. I don't know if you can see. Really, really annoying. So now that all the flaky stuff's off, I've actually moved the grit up. I think we're on about 120 now. and I'm going to give it another fine sand and see how smooth we can get it. So that finer grip paper is not actually fetching much off as he wipes it all off his head and his hoodie. It is incredibly dusty in this Horsebox, but I'm pretty happy with the roof. I don't expect it to be perfect. It's a Horsebox at the end of the day, and we are going to have a lot of features and stuff on the roof, so I think it's the last thing that you'll probably be looking at from a customer's point of view. But I might go and see if I've got a little bit of high build primer upstairs left from some calipers that we did the other day. Just spray a bit on the roof and just get an idea of how much work or further work we're going to have to do on the roof to get it to an acceptable standard. So let me go and try and find that primer and we'll get a bit sprayed on the roof. Managed to find a little bit of primer, 2 little bits left in cans. Before the prep police tell me off, I'm going to brush down the roof, try and get some of the dust off it. Okay, so I've used what high build primer I had left and it actually doesn't look too bad. Still wet at the minute, still drying, but I don't think this roof is going to need as much work as we initially thought. Well, we've had a pretty good day on the Horsebox. We have managed to finish off the framing and get this skeleton sheet of ply up and somewhat in place. It has all got to come back off again because we've got to run a load of wires and piping. However, for the time being, it's kind of giving you a little sneak peek as to the sort of look that we're going for. Now, I initially said earlier that I was going to tile these walls, but I have just come up with an idea. Can you remember when we did the media wall? Well, that sheet in there comes in 2.4 metres long by 60 centimetres wide, and I can actually get it for just over £40 a sheet at the minute, which is really cheap. And with this Horsebox, the worktops and cupboards are going to be down low, and then we only sort of need coverage from here up to the top. So I actually think that we might end up buying some of that media wall panelling and actually using that across the top of the Horsebox. To tile it is going to take a very long time. It's got to be very neat and very square. That media wall panelling, you just literally cut, screw it up or glue it up and it's done. So I'm actually swaying towards that at the minute just for cost effectiveness and time. Obviously briquette tiles or whatever tiles we wanted to use aren't going to be cheap, so maybe we do use the media wall panelling. But yeah, I think I'm going to get the hoover out now. I'm going to hoover in here because it's very dusty and dirty. There's a lot of paint everywhere, and since we've been doing all the cutting, which I haven't really showed you because the GoPro died yet again. I'm having a nightmare with that GoPro. I hate the thing. But this is all messy, so I'm actually going to tidy all this up as well. And by this point I was absolutely exhausted. It had been a very long, dusty day, but the Horsebox was looking brilliant. It is a new day, and yesterday we made some serious progress on this Horsebox project. But unfortunately now I have got some good news and some bad news for you, and I'm going to give you the bad news first. We are going to cut this video here right now because it is currently 4 days until Christmas, and we need to film another video for in between the Christmas break and New Year because me and Rich would actually like some time off ourselves. This YouTube malarkey is actually a full-time job, believe it or not. But the good news is Rich is actually back from work.
Hello.
Why have you got the grinder in your hand again?
I assume something might need cutting.
We'd both just personally like to thank you for watching our content and supporting the channel over the past 2 months. I still think it's about 75% of you that watch don't actually subscribe. So if you are enjoying this content, the one Christmas gift me and Rich are asking for is you to hit that subscribe button. I hope you all have a great Christmas and a happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2025.